Now, as we explore the idea of Mercury, the first thing that's going to come to mind is the trickster spirit. Now, why does Mercury represent the trickster spirit? When we think about Mercury, we're thinking about the left brain. We're thinking about logic. We're thinking about common sense. We're thinking about essentially practical jokes and word games. Now, what do I mean by practical jokes and word games? When we're dealing with Mercury, Mercury has an influence over the spoken word. So, the trickster spirit represents it can take the form of other deities or other mathematical formulas because it's the use of our words that either get us into things or get us out of things. In other words, Mercury likes to give you what you want accidentally, meaning because you were not aware fully of what you were saying. Because a lot of times we either use the same words over and over, a basic conversation, or we may select our words a little bit more carefully if we're around elders, or a professional environment. But a lot of times, words tend to flow out of our mouths, when we don't think about it. But if we were to analyze the words that are coming out of our mouth and we truly think about what are we asking for when we speak, not necessarily in prayer, but when we speak, whether we're speaking to ourselves or we're speaking to other people, what is it that we're speaking and how is this creating our reality? Although, again, we're not necessarily talking about manifestation, we're just talking about the spoken word. How creative can we get with the spoken word? Let's write this down. So because Mercury gives you what you want, even if it's an accident, even if you may not be aware of what you're saying and the effect it may have in the long term, especially when we think about things like the butterfly effect, where the flap of butterfly wings can essentially turn into hurricanes. The words that escape our mouths can essentially turn into hurricanes or earthquakes or rainstorms, just to name a few things. What we experience on an emotional level as well as an intellectual level. Now, we also know that Mercury, the planet Mercury, rules the zodiac signs of Gemini and Virgo. Now, what do Gemini and Virgo have in common? They are both mutable signs. What do I mean by mutable signs? We have three possible influences that a sign can manifest in. A sign can either be a mutable sign, a fixed sign, or a cardinal sign. If it's a cardinal sign such as Aries or Capricorn or Libra, we get the energy of freshness, of the spark of new life, something that is being created, something that's appearing right before your eyes that wasn't there before, things manifesting from the dark. Fixed signs such as Taurus or Scorpio or Libra or Aquarius, we get a sense of preservation. These signs like to preserve things that they hold dear, whether it be principles, a way of life, a way of doing things. They're very fixed in their ways, how they think, and how far they allow their minds to go. Now, a mutable sign is the energy that likes to spread, such as we say, the Gemini, the Virgo, the Sagittarius, or I'm missing the sign. It'll come to me. But y'all get my point. These are the energies that like to spread. When we think about Sagittarius, we think about a spreading fire. When we think about a Gemini, we think about words that like to spread and that like to take on different forms, depending on what the situation is. When we think about a Virgo, we think about a person that likes to problem solve. Virgos like to problem solve. So, when we think about these ideas associated with Mercury, then we're starting to pick up on the energy of alchemy and ceremonial magic. Let's write that down. We know alchemy is the use of not only prayer or, using an altar or using sigils, things of this nature. Alchemy is also our choice of words. And I'm not just saying the choice of words like good words versus bad words. It's how creative, as we were just saying earlier, how creative can you get with your wordplay? The more creative you can get with your wordplay, the further you can go in reality. You can get into certain doors when your creativity is a lot more fluid and flexible. Also, ceremonial magic, magic performed in a ritualistic stance, in the sense of everything that we choose to do is based in some type of ritual or ceremony. Everybody has a morning ritual as well as a nightly ritual. You may have a certain thing that you do before you go to work, before you get in your car, before you come into your household from a long day at work. You may go to a particular place to eat. You may go to a particular store. You may have a conversation with particular people, so on and so forth. All these things are ritualistic. So when we start to gear our lives towards ritualistically combining our spirituality with our everyday lives and what we do on a daily basis, things that appear not to have any spiritual significance, such as, okay, it's just another day, another dollar. You know what I mean? You got to do what you got to do, pay bills. We know that life has a certain mundane feature to it. But when we bring the spirituality to the mundaneness of reality, we start to see more of what we consider the physical plane. In other words, we begin to open up the doors to things such as synchronicity, because we are placing our minds in a place where it remains open instead of being closed, because we become more flexible and fluid with our wordplay. This is something that we can do on a daily basis, just to see how creative can you be with your words that's going to influence people as well as yourself. First and foremost, can you influence your own mind by utilizing a different choice of words? We know that we say the same things or similar things on a daily basis, but how creative can we really get? Can we figure out different ways to say the same thing just a little bit more creatively, using a little more of our wit and intelligence? So let's take this to the supreme alphabet, then we're going to take it to the supreme mathematics. So we have it: Mercury, M is master, E is equality, R is ruler, C is sea, U is universe, R is ruler once again, and Y is why, like the question why. Now, what does this mean? You master equality with proper measurement, which allows one to see his or her entire universe measured by the intelligent use of the question why. In other words, whenever we question reality, why, just like children, always asking why. Why does this happen? Why does these two chemicals mix and have this type of reaction? Why is it that when I use a certain choice of words, it has a particular effect on the mind? We start to get more creative with our vocabulary. Why? Because as we start to do these experiments and we get real-time results, it makes us want to go deeper into the science, because we see that it actually do make a difference. It actually does make a difference in our everyday life, depending on how deep we want to go into it. So once again, the master of equality is one who has proper management of how far they allow their vision to go. If they allow their vision to go to a place where their vision is holistic, in other words, when we allow our minds to travel beyond the physical senses and we get a greater feel of, okay, it's not just me here in the physical reality. I also have a spiritual reality as well as a dream reality. I have the state where I'm in deep sleep, where I don't dream, but I also have a state of when I'm in REM sleep, when I can lucid dream. I also have a state of meditation or trance where I can astral project. And I have a place where even going beyond that, where you can actually communicate with higher beings, deities, or different aspects of who we are, which we will not be able to do physically, or what we call physical reality, which really in a sense, isn't as physical as it appears to be. That measurement of being fully aware of the universe causes you to ask more intelligent questions of how do we relate to the universe around us. So not just being taught about atoms and particles and waves, but how do we influence these particles, these waves, these things that are normally unseen as well as seen? How much influence do we truly have over our reality? Now, when we take it to the supreme mathematics, M is the 13th letter, E is the 5th letter, R is the 18th letter, C is the 3rd letter, universe, or the U is the 21st letter. Hold on. We have 18 and we have 25. So a master has knowledge and understanding of his culture, his or her culture. 1 + 3 = 4. So we have knowledge, understanding. Borns your culture. A master has knowledge and understanding of his or her culture. That's what makes them a master. Equality. 5 is power. Power in this raw sense represents force. Being able to push or pull, to be able to refine your power into a more directed source. In other words, power in its raw form could actually become harmful. Power can be abused. But once you start to refine your power so that it isn't abused and it actually brings about healing, freedom, justice, and equality, we start to see power for its true form. But it must be refined. Because in this raw stage, power makes you powerful, but that power also has the ability to corrupt if it is not properly refined. Because we are the rulers of our said reality. There is nobody above us or below us other than aspects of ourselves that we may or may not be aware of. So rulership is a state of being fully aware of the higher worlds, the earth, as well as the lower worlds, which we talked about discussing Rahu, which forms the universe, the higher worlds, the lower worlds, as well as the earth. This makes up the totality of the universe. And with this measurement of the entire universe, you begin to question more things from a practical sense. How do I practically apply these mathematics, these alphabets, and these lessons to further my agenda of self-education, self-knowledge, knowledge of self? Know thyself.